Good evening and welcome to Story Hour. I'm tonight's host, Laura Blackwell. My wonderful co-host, Daniel Marcus, started Story Hour, about 2 years ago. And we've been here basically every Wednesday since then because we're really enjoying ourselves and all of these great stories we're hearing. So welcome back to those of you returning and welcome to those of you joining us for the first time. As always, we have two writers reading for favorite nonprofits. Tonight's readers are returning favorite, Laurance Gidney, and soon-to-be new favorite, J.A. Haigh. If you are fortunate enough to help others during this time, please consider a donation to tonight's featured nonprofit. Both of them are extremely timely, although they're valuable at all times. They are did they say Smile or
Smile?
Smile. Oh,
Smile.
Smile. That's so sweet. Smile, spelled S-M-Y-A-L. And Red Cross Australia's Ukraine Crisis Appeal. Laurance Gidney is reading for SMILE, which it stands for Supporting and Mentoring Youth Advocates and Leaders. SMILE, S-M-Y-A-L, supports and empowers lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning youth in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan region. Through youth leadership, SMILE creates opportunities for LGBTQ youth to build self-confidence, develop critical life skills, engage their peers and community through service and advocacy. Committed to social change, SMILE builds, sustains, and advocates for programs, policies, and services that youth need as they grow into adulthood. You can learn more at smyal.org. J.A. Haigh is reading for Red Cross Australia's Ukraine Crisis Appeal. The number of casualties is rising while health facilities struggle to cope. People are sheltering underground, often for hours on end, unable to go outside for fear of shelling. Hundreds of thousands of people have no food, water, heat, electricity, or medical care. Red Cross teams on the ground are providing first aid, supporting health facilities with medicines and equipment, providing families with food, shelter, and hygiene items, delivering much needed water, and repairing vital infrastructure. You can learn more at redcross.org.au/Ukraine. If you are here on Zoom, feel free to leave your camera on. It can be very nice for readers to see. Chime in on the text chat if you like. And if you're joining us on Facebook, thank you very much, but please understand that we're not going to be there all the time. So, if you have a question, we'll look at later. But we're really glad you're here too. Laurance Gidney is, let's see, you're reading second tonight, Craig?
Yes.
Because J.A. Haigh is calling in from Australia. J.A. Haigh was raised in the wilds of Tasmania, Australia, and her writing is full of magic and myth. Her work has been published in such places as Midnight Echo, Kill Your Darlings, Aurealis, Andromeda Spaceways, and Syntax and Salt. In 2021, she received a mentorship from the Australasian Horror Writers Association to polish her dark fantasy novel with guidance from horror author Karen Warren. J.A. Haigh is currently querying the completed novel, A Wreath for the Pattern Maker, while hard at work on her next dark fantasy. Welcome. Great to have you here.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
It is our pleasure.
Sorry, I'm actually going to read two stories tonight. The first one is called The Whelk, and this was first published in 2019 by Kill Your Darlings. Okay. Content warnings for this one is references to kidnapping, sexual assault, and death. The Whelk. The ocean is no place for a dryad. A century has slipped away since the timber cutters hauled my home tree down that damp forest track. The tall shadows of my sisters, myrtle, wattle, and sassafras, left far behind. The blunt rattle of the shipyards, air saturated with tar, the carver worked, prying away the sapwood and the green, trying to break through to my almost flesh figure below. When I was bolted to the bow at last, the sails full and strung out over deep water, my heart fought back, resolutely pulling its way towards the earth. I'd soon found the rocks and the ship along with me. I am dredged up, disgorged along with the stickleback and squid. Steaming timber gives way with a sharp crack. The scent of ozone and charred wood like freshly turned pine searing my lungs. I still fear the flicker of fire or a man with an axe. I shift in my hollow and frown up at the towering men shapes. Bolstered against each other, they press away from me, straining toward the edges of the deck. Though all eyes are locked on me, none step forward. Only their scarred fingertips move, throwing up ancient ward signs. Puzzled, I inspect my own weak hands. Flex and stretch cold fingers to study the lines on my palms. These men have nothing to fear. Encased for years in salt and sand, trapped under the ocean, I have become just a threadbare scrap of a thing. The deck lurches from one swell to the next, and the familiar slap of water on the hull gives me the heaves. It brings back memories, cutting high through the ocean, imprisoned, a silent witness to an element I couldn't bear. Though back above the waves, I am still far from land. Sick with longing, I hear the sound of boots through the boards. Taking me by the elbow, the captain hoists me up and away from sight, safe behind closed doors. He is shaking, but not with fear. Lifting my arm, circling, he inspects the structure of me, the texture of my hair, looks me over like something he thought lost long ago. I've grown so used to surrender. It's not in my nature to fight. Not yet. He carries me from the harbour like some shameful trophy, clutching me close, sheltered, though his eyes skitter away from the ill fit of his neighbour's judgment. We skirt our way up the hill past rows of sandstone cottages, hunkered down beneath the black edge of the mountain, all of them angled down to watch the sea. When he sets me down in the soil of his garden, it feels like home, until I catch sight of the woman glaring from the step. I can still feel the imprint of his hands. What's this then? She brushes soil from her hands as she tumbles potatoes into a basket. Forgetting myself, I lean hungrily towards the smell of fresh earth, eager to put down roots again. It has been so long. Crew are gone, he says. What? She flushes red. All of them packed up and gone. What happened this time? I didn't do a damn thing. I'll bet, she tucks. And this one? I pull the greasy wool of his jumper tighter around me. The hem skims above my bony shanks and I crouch to keep it down. The other woman looks solid, a glint of quartz in her gaze. It isn't to be so easy then. Orphan of the ocean, he lies. Another one? Can't help yourself, can you? She rolls her eyes. Ever think of throwing them back, idiot? They never last up here. He leans in, tightening a fingertip in her collar as he speaks. Ocean's more my mistress than you'll ever be. You don't say. She pushes him aside and he scowls full of impotent bluster. Go on, she urges. I'll take care of your Whelk, as always. Dolly. Relenting, she steps forward to lay one brittle hand along his jaw, gives it a sharp tap. Off you go. Sort out this thing with the men. Together we watch him trudge down the hill, hounded and weary, as she measures the frail width of my wrist with thumb and finger. Shaking her head, the shadow of a smile slips across her face. Never lasts. All flotsam and jetsam, you lot. The crew follow him and his whiskey back up the hill, and though they are all agreed to set out again at first light, they still watch me warily. I hover in my borrowed slip, not feeling the cold air, skirting the barrel of fire while they cluster around it in their coats. Rain glitters off the end of the roof. The smell of sizzling fat and charcoal catches in my hair and sticks tight, lingering after I fall into bed. Through the damp plaster wall, the ebb and flow of their gruff voices in the darkness builds its way to a heavy dread in my lungs. A reminder of the weight of all that salted water and the press of the ocean. Even firmly set down on dry land, I can't shake the flashes of wild waves. I'd resolved to endure that liquid saline space for an eternity. Now the dirt is all around me, a siren song in the night. Green polyps sprout from the plaster beneath my outstretched fingertips, but I brush them away, out of sight. The garden is full of revival, and with him gone from the house, the tang of sea spray is far away and down the hill. All I can smell now is healthy sap from the plum trees, the sun on damp chickweed, and rich, solid earth heavy with sandstone. Something unfurls in my chest. Dolly brushes a hand across my cheek. There's no need for that, love. Mystified to see tears painting her fingertips, I brush away my grief. Instead, I grip her forearm, pulling her to me. What happens to the orphans? She stares at me a moment before loosening my grip on her arm. Fade away with longing for the sea, she says. You all do. I'm different. How could she not know? Am I so strange? Hardly, love. Clear enough this place doesn't agree with you. You're sick already. You don't eat. Don't know what else to do for your kind. She'd not seen me at night shoveling dirt into my mouth, feeling it stick cold and gritty in my throat, fed at last. The plum tree blossom had fallen in a great flood of surrender as I'd mined the earth for nutrients, clawing with long fingers among the roots, back in my original element. I don't belong out there, I try to warn her. She looks me up and down, laughs coldly. You're no different, sweetheart. Hauled up from some ancient oyster bed like the rest, chipped loose from the shell and kept for pleasure. Shell? Like all the other oyster girls. I'd expected her to notice long before now. No, I insist. Wood. Wood, she jeers. From all the trees way out there? You stink of the sea. I was part of a ship, a figurehead. You're no different, she repeats. Still, I can see the hook of fear in her. I knuckle my toes down into the dirt, see the clover and sedges uncoil new leaves. Show her my teeth. Ask your husband. He knows better. You're mistaken. My husband is a creature of simple habits. He likes to collect ocean trinkets. You fit the cloth, that's all. Dolly places her palm on the naked plum tree, and a handful of fresh buds begin to surface, popping free from the bark. A show of strength, but I can see how it pains her to do it. Leaning in, I sweep back her hair, a net of sweet peas seeding from my fingertips to weave across her scalp. A crown. The sensation disturbs her. Clutching at her head, she rips at the vines. We could be like sisters, you and I whisper, trying to mend what I have so easily broken. Her head shakes, horror passing over her face. You're no kind of kin to me. My smile is bitter, but I nod. I can understand fear. Still, I reach out to her. When her husband returns from the sea, Dolly is just another soft memory behind the dandelions and nettles. He seems happy enough to find me in her place. For a while. The front steps are fast lost to chamomile and mint as I grow more comfortable, the garden giving over to wild seed. Soon enough, I see how his eyes begin to slide off mine. He doesn't concern me. Summer stretches across autumn, the branches heavy with damsons and floral bonnets, and I revel in the hum of an ocean of bees, raising my seedlings to new heights. Now, even when the boat makes shore, his shipmen stay away from the house, chained by their superstition, and it is a lonely walk up the hill for him. My captain's forays out to sea draw out more each time. In his absence, I let the limbs of the willow explore the house, bracing the walls and roof, sloughing off the fragile shell of plaster to break out in new buds. The old dishes crack in the sink, pushed aside by insistent runners searching for water, and the small windows are shuttered by wisteria. I hear the yawn of the gate, wallowing in warm soil under the broad leaves of the squash. I'm full of sunlight, sluggish with it. I roll to my knees. There is my captain, and by his side another girl, grey eyes, silver hair, young flesh. I can smell the customary fear coiling off him as he clocks me and shelters her behind his back. I stifle a laugh. What does he think I might do? She looks flaky and hollow, tender skin already burning in the dry heat of the sun. A real delicacy, that morsel. I smile indulgently at my captain. His eyes turn to the house, the rack and ruin of it, the thread through of vines in the stonework, and I enjoy seeing his neck blush with rage. Neither of them speaks. He urges her inside with a bridal twitch of her arm, and she turns to look back at me, gaze full of dying as they disappear into the broken house. I stretch back out in the dirt, leaving him to reacquaint himself with the cottage and his newfound place in it. He doesn't sleep in the wide marriage bed anymore. The nest of bark and branches I have woven there doesn't seem to suit. In any case, he has other duties now. The sky is turning to night, and the harbour gleams like dull metal under the town. Does she have a name? I ask him, discarding the chaff as I sort a mess of seed pods. No. Beyond us, out at the furthest point of the plot, the girl is straining against the sandstone of the wall, as if trying to reach the ocean far below or catch a breath of salty air. I can't go to her. I don't want to. Though I feel for the poor Whelk, lost in a landscape so unfamiliar. I remember that compressed sensation of longing, the beat of it in my wrist. Safe in my garden, I recall those long years at sea and the spiny, clicking, scaled expanse of the deep. How unsettling to be at home in such a place. An older memory plucks sharply at my spine and I shiver. Beside me, my captain has picked up a whetstone, his eyes holding mine as he works the blade of the axe through a moonlight gleam. Within a week, the oyster girl's supple skin has cracked, deep fissures opening up across her face as the life and liquor shrink out of her. The grey eyes have darkened to charcoal black. She'll be gone in a bare few days. More fodder for my garden. Our captain doesn't like to look at her now. It's all too much, and death is a level of intimacy he clearly doesn't care to find. I stay outside when I can. The smell is all through the house like rotting kelp. He must be immune to the stench. Or used to it, I think, covering my mouth while I watch them sleep. In the dark room, the girl looks smaller, curling in on herself, away from his long reach. And though it burns my hands, I sprinkle her with salt and snap a wet sheet across her dry flesh. She whimpers, shifting, nuzzling her cracked face closer to the dampness, as our captain shivers in his dreams and tugs a blanket over his bear-like shoulders. Next day at dawn, he's run back to the sea, unable to face her inevitable end. The coward. Why not throw her back? Too ashamed? Instead, the young oyster girl remains with me, landlocked within the house, too weak to make the harbour. She is only a kernel of what she'd once been, a barnacle. Doesn't make a sound as I slather her in silt and slurry, just rides slowly in the mess like a dying serpent. Later, when I drag her limp form to the wharf and roll it in with a hollow gulp, I'm not convinced I've done enough. She simply vanishes from sight in the dark water, not even a sign of her fractured corpse bobbing to the surface. I sit and wait. Boats come and go, flooding men back onto land. Alighting, they move as a pack, avoiding me as they pass, cursing at my unexpected presence in their territory. No one lingers. At pink dusk, and to a chorus of begging gulls, she rises again. She looks for me with eyes that are leached of blackness, have returned to grey. She holds out her hand in invitation, but I shake my head, trying to hide a shiver, and anchor myself with the closeness of stones and wood. We could be like sisters, I try once more, my voice pitching. She smiles, showing pearlescent teeth, and links her slick arm through mine. Silently, I tilt my head to her shoulder. I think she might pull me in, drag me under. but we simply rock back and forth at the borderland of the shore. I feel a pleasant tingle of salt on my forehead. Here and now, familiar tidal rush beneath her skin. And that's okay. So the next one that I'm reading is by Anchor and Asphalt. This one was published by Syntax and Salt quite a few years ago. This one references domestic violence and terminal illness. By Anchor and Asphalt. I dragged the body across the asphalt, leaving a rusty smear over the damp surface of the road. The blood solidified hours ago, and flies are exploring the dark rough of the animal's pelt, eager to get to work. Turning, I look back down the hill. No hint of traffic, just the crackle, drip, and birdsong of the bush all around, and the vapour of wet eucalypt leaves steaming in the sun. I can sense the boys in the back seat of the car, heads ducked low, eyes averted, mortified by what their mum is doing. I smile. "What's up?" I call through to them. A musty, sweet smell envelops me as I drop the heavy band of the wallaby's tail and reach for a Hessian bag. Owen sinks lower in his seat, but Joe twists around to look at me, his face screwed up like a bat. "You're gross, that's what's up. How did I ever produce such delicate little flowers?" "Good for the garden," I lie, staring him down. A laugh hitches the corner of his mouth. "It stinks." I point at him. "So do you, but I still love you." "Shut up." He turns away to hide his grin. Tucking the stiff tail and long feet into the bag, I heft the roadkill into the boot. There's a shallow puddle of rainwater along the edge of the stopping bay, and I bend to rinse my hands in it, drenching up the fine gravel to scrub at my dusty palms. When I walk to the driver's side, the boys are racing to wind down the car windows. "Whoa, that stinks," Joey crows, head out gasping for air. "It reeks," Owen hacks out the other side, his silent protest forgotten. I hop in behind the wheel and call, "Seat belts," over my shoulder. Silently, I wind down my own window, and pulling the car back out onto the tarmac, I head for home. Back in the garden, the branches of the greengage are heavy with cascades of plums. I've been neglecting them lately. I'll have to prop them soon to stop them splitting from the trunk. Everything has grown so fast this year. I press the heel of my palm against the tender tissue below my armpit. The garden's growth seems to be in eerie parallel with that once small kernel in my chest. Suddenly, every unfurling leaf has been painted with coincidence and deeper meaning. I'm seeing signs everywhere. My parents would have been proud, the gypsy heritage finally striking roots. I lean on the spade, watch my boys through the kitchen window. Rifling through the fridge, they jostle each other for room like puppies, playful. At least they have each other. To be fair, at last my lonely migrant childhood may finally pay off some of its debt. All those melancholic afternoons I'd spent with my homesick parents, hunched around the pot of tea for warmth, eating black bread with Dad's pickled fish and watching tea leaves swirl in the bottom of my cup, hadn't been for nothing. Listening to their longing voices had been a spell all of its own, and I'd soaked up plenty of the Black Forest tales over the years. By Anchor and Ash. That had been the way of it in my father's country. And right now, I'm desperate enough to try anything. I look back at the fruit trees. 4 of the stubby trunks have fresh mounds of pea straw surrounding them. Below the mulch, the ashen form of each dead animal is shrouded in its own small bed of seaweed. In the old forest, it would have been lake reeds, not ocean fodder, but the traditional recipe had evolved to new locations before. It's a representation of water and earth, the anchor and the ash that matters, tokens of life. The day's find brings my tally to 3 wallabies, a quoll, and a possum. I only need 1 more. It won't take long. After all, the island's roads are littered with the corpses of unfortunate animals. It could have been worse. A person would have had to cut a few throats to work this kind of magic once. I make a rough nest with the seaweed, the fine ends crackling while the bulkier roots are still rubbery. That same sickly musk clouds around me when I lower the marsupial in, and I work to keep my breath shallow. I feel like my hands will never really be clean again. The kindling rises in a loose pyramid over the body, and when I set the wood alight, the damp seaweed steams, a metallic taste billowing in, expanding my lungs as it casts off moisture. The boys avoid me all afternoon, lazing about in the deep sun at the back of the house. Owen reads his latest second-hand sci-fi, and Joe effortlessly distracts him, flicking rubber bands at his head and singing advertising jingles in a pleasantly innocent tone until his older brother thumps him. I can't bring myself to look away from the delicate curve of a forearm or the glamour, the ease with which they move, simply shifting position. They are golden and perfect and full of life, and for a brief, bitter moment, I glare up at the sun, eyes stinging, hating my lot. My parents are gone. The boy's father is a whirlwind of violence and fear that we've all narrowly escaped. I have no siblings, no aunts or uncles, no dear friends left to turn to. I can't leave them yet. This has to work. I don't have the boys with me on Tuesday when I finish my shift. I'm fighting hard not to be jealous of their time, not to keep them greedily all to myself, not to give the game away. So that afternoon, Owen is at a friend's place for dinner, while Joe is bussing his way back from the swimming carnival. As soon as I see the black hump in the middle of the road, I pull up, breathless. I roll it over with the toe of my boot. The squat, dark shape of a Tasmanian devil stares up at me with glazed eyes. Well, the animal seems oddly fitting. By anchor and ash, I chant numbly as I push it into the bag. This time, I wait for the sun to go well down before lighting the fire. The boys are returned home and already folded into bed, their young faces creased with sleep. I'm watching the blue flames cinder the edges of seaweed and trying to keep my face from the fickle plume of smoke when the storm sneaks in, its belly close against the trees. With the first crack of thunder, I turn rigid, a human animal caught in the headlights of the storm. A shiver of fear courses through me, and I feel the terror of having tempted fate. Exactly what am I doing? A quick zap, like strong static, channels through my skull and spine, and for an instant, the endless pinpricks of rain on my skin feel like 1,000 European wasp stings, a poisonous ache that then fades quickly away. Is that it? Is it done? I feel for the place below my left arm, the wad of thickened tissue that first signaled my grim, short future, and my legs turn weak when I find that it is still there. Distraught, furious, I gouge at it, pushing it like fluid, and it seems to dissolve suddenly, dispersing beneath my hand as if it had never been. I'm paralyzed with shock. From behind me, I hear the sound of a door clicking open, and a yellow light floods out onto the wet grass. Turning, I see Joe blinking at me from the warm shelter of the kitchen door. Thick with the downpour, I'm a drowned rat. I stagger by him to towel off, to change, but I see his furrowed brow and halt so proudly to smooth it away with a cold thumb. Mum? I gaze at him, lost. You okay? I choke a little at that, afraid. Fine. How would he know? What's going on? Joe looks at me hard. His blue eyes narrow, searching for something off kilter. Nothing. What do you mean? I hold my breath, waiting, trapped like a teenager sneaking into my own house. He steps in, tucks his nose into the collar of my neck and sniffs deep. I remember him as a toddler, asleep in my arms, nuzzled under my chin. You smell weird, he says. What? Different, he exhales. You smell like thunder. I hover. He looks to the roof for words. Thunder and blankets? He nods. Grinning, I catch him to me, tight, for as long as I can. He shivers. Thunderstorms and blankets, hey? Hell, I can live with that. That's the end. Thank you.
Oh, those were beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, I love the writing in those. You really got me wanting to visit Australia, weirdly.
Come on down.
Although it sounds very dangerous. We find that we always have to take a breath between the stories. Stories just fill me up somehow. Well, we have another wonderful writer tonight. We have Laurance Gidney, who I met in the other South in Atlanta at Outer Dark Symposium some time ago. And Laurance Gidney writes both contemporary and genre fiction. He is the author of the collection See, Swallow Me and Other Stories from Lethe Press in 2008, Skin Deep Magic from Rebel Story Press, 2014. Coming out just in June, The Nectar of Nightmares from Underland Press. Maybe we're going to get a picture of that, I hope. But the cover art's really great. And young adult novel Bereft from Tiny Satchel Press in 2013. And A Spectral Hue, which I didn't wear purple just for it, but it is a very purple book. The color fuchsia is actually very important in it, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous book. I can't recommend it enough. A Spectral Hue came out from Word Horde in 2019. Craig is a lifelong Washington, D.C. resident. Craig, welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to be reading from the first story in The Nectar of Nightmares. I wonder if I can show the cover, which comes out in June from Underland Press. And it's a collection of short fiction. This piece, like a couple of other pieces, is kind of a retelling of a familiar tale. And it's called Beneath the Briar Patch. The war between fox and rabbit ended with a man made of tar and a briar patch. Both of them just love jokes, real showboaters, that pair. Two centers of attention, life of the party times two. They were mostly good at making themselves laugh rather than other people. Audiences were collateral damage. But what they liked even more was being the best at something. If Fox made a funny face, Rabbit made an even funnier one. If Rabbit learned how to interpret a song with a series of burps, Fox learned how to make his fart sound musical. If one could juggle 3 balls, the other would try to juggle 6 knives. On and on it went, each trying to outdo the other. Oh, they wrote the book on competitiveness. Think Cain and Abel, Jacob and Esau, in that vein. But one of them took it too far. It was inevitable. It's always funny until someone loses an eye. It was Fox who did it, but it just as easily could have been Rabbit. See, Fox got it in that pea brain of his to make a fool out of Rabbit because, 1, Rabbit had done something to piss him off. Even Fox had forgotten exactly what that was. 2, Rabbit always gave good reactions. He was the patron saint of butthurt. And 3, because Fox was an asshole. So Fox went down to the swamp where a pool of hot black tar bubbled. He mixed the tar with a crude figure he made of sticks and bones he drugged up from the graves. He put raggedy clothes on the figure that he'd stolen from laundry lines. He gave the tar thing glass eyes, stolen from a little girl's doll, and a maggoty potato for a nose, and a slice of watermelon for lips. A gator's overripe heart, bound with wire, was placed in the thing's gloppy chest. Fox knew some hoodoo. So he put the whammy on the thing, and presto, blammo, it lurched behind him, a man-sized poppet. Everyone hung out at the Briar Patch. It was a kind of speakeasy. You hung around and shot the shit with your pals on nights when Sister Moon wore her silver dress that made her look round and the sky was full of stars. The thorns of the Briar Patch were as sharp as nails. But fireflies swarmed around in the branches and lit it up like a cotillion ballroom. Everyone was there: bear, dog, cat, hog, hoot owl, and magpie. They drank corn liquor that burned their throats and made them look cross-eyed. They all flirted, fought, and gossiped by the patch. Of course, Rabbit was there. He was always there, laughing too loudly. Fox hid on the other side of the patch and sent the tar poppet into the crowd. "Well, hello there," said Sister Goose. She waggled one of her false eyelashes at the dashingly dark figure. The poppet said nothing. "Want to wet your whistle?" said Hoot Owl, and the poppet wordlessly lurched away. In fact, the tar poppet said nothing to anyone. He just lumbered along silently, just as Fox wanted him to. And just as Fox predicted, everyone thought that the poppet was rude and sullen. Rabbit was the center of attention, and a cluster of folks, including Badger, the hen triplets, bear, and dog. Presently, Hoot Owl joined them. "What's up with that uppity so-and-so over there?" he said to the group. "I gave him salutations, all gentlemanlike, and that fool just up and ignored me. Why come to the patch if you ain't going to be sociable?" Everyone's eyes drifted over to the shambling figure who had apparently affronted Madame Buzzard, who was being consoled by Sister Goose. Madame Buzzard was a drama queen for sure, but still, enough was enough. No one owned the Briar Patch, but Rabbit was, in an unofficial manner, its proprietor. It was Rabbit who arranged the shipment of moonshine, and he also spread word about the gatherings hither and yon. So Rabbit felt a certain responsibility for the patch, and just as Fox had hoped, Rabbit left his clique and approached the poppet, who was now slumping by the bushes that surrounded the glimmering patch. "Say there, sirrah," said Rabbit. "I hear you're causing quite a stir in there." What do you think the poppet, who now hid in a snare of shadow, said? This incensed the eminently sensible Rabbit. "What's wrong? Sister Cat got your tongue?" No response. "What's wrong? Can't you speak?" No response. "Just nod if you can understand me." No response. "Do something. Wave your hand, stomp your feet, anything." No response. Now, hidden in the bush, Fox laughed silently at this. This was gonna be good. If Rabbit hadn't been such a hothead, he would have noticed how the poppet's posture was poor, or the weird sulfurous stench it exuded. But by now, Rabbit's head was hot enough to fry an egg on. "Didn't your mama train you right? Are you crazy?" To which he received an infuriating no response as an answer. If he had been an engine, steam would have been pouring out of his ears and nostrils. He went into the shadows, and you know what happened. First a slap across the thing's face, then another, both of them sticking to the thing's skin. Then one swift kick, followed by another. By this time, Fox revealed himself behind the bush, gasping with laughter until tears came to his eyes. Everyone at the briar patch gathered around, gradually figured out that this was one more battle in the endless prank war. Some of them joined Fox in laughing at Rabbit's misfortune, but a sizable group just rolled their eyes in disgust and moved away from the scene. "You got me," Rabbit said. He sighed. "Now have your boy here let me go." Fox wiped a tear from his eye and said, "Okay." And he made the appropriate movements and said the words of power to end the spell. And nothing happened. Rabbit struggled some more. "Hurry up, I gotta pee." Fox tried again, taking his time to avoid making a mistake. Hoodoo demands precision, but it didn't work the second time. "What the hell," said Fox. He wasn't laughing anymore. "Ha ha," said Rabbit. "Very funny. Let me go now." "I'm trying, damn it. I'm trying." Fox performed the spell, enunciating each word carefully, modulating his voice to its loudest pitch. He did all of the gestures in slow motion, and still nothing. "I'm getting irritated, Fox. I don't know why it's not working. Let me try something else. Can you reach into all that tar? In there, you'll find a gator's heart." "Ow," said Rabbit. "It stung me. Careful there. I bound it with wire. Now, if you can just pull it out." Rabbit was awkwardly attempting this operation when something mighty strange happened. The tar poppet began to absorb Rabbit at an accelerated pace until he was swallowed whole from ear tip to hind leg. The poppet got fat, grotesquely pregnant with Rabbit's body. Madame Buzzard screamed. Sister Goose fainted. Fox cursed, horrified. Then Rabbit's face appeared in the middle of its belly. "Help me," he croaked. And the poppet jumped right into the briar patch, taking Rabbit with it. It was Sister Magpie who took control of the situation. No one noticed her arrival. She appeared and vanished like a thief in the night. She was a sneaky one, with a penchant for snagging shiny little things. But she had a streak of wisdom, as bright as the white feathers that fringed her dark face. It was she who helped Goose after her fainting spell, and she who quieted the crowd. "Brother Fox," she said when the hush had settled, "just what exactly did you do?" Fox hemmed and hawed. "Out with it." "Well, ma'am, sister, see, I thought I'd play a little trick on Brother Rabbit. You see, last week we all know about your tomfoolery. We ain't interested in hearing about of who shot John stories. Just what was that thing that took our brother into the briar patch?" Fox reluctantly told them about the poppet, how he had made it, and how he had lost control. "I don't know what happened." Hoot Owl had been silent until this moment. He swiveled his head towards the briar patch, then back to Fox, who had his head in his hands. "Hoodoo calls to hoodoo," he said. "Them that practice it, that follow its ways, always know when hoodoo is done. Who? They smell it, they taste it in the air. Most hoodoo is small work, tending to an ill one, fixing a broken heart. But big spells, whoo, big spells always get noticed. And sometimes them that notice mischief have a little mischief in themselves. Who? Maybe it was the corn liquor or the shadow, but Hoot Owl's lambent eyes seemed darker, and the shape of his head more devilish. The tufts of his head feathers looked like horns. He whispered, and the animal folk gathered closer. I think the conqueror caught him a whiff of Brother Fox's hoodoo witchery and took the poppet to see what was stinking up the patch. A gasp rose like wood smoke from the crowd. Madame Buzzard fainted this time, falling on the woozy Sister Goose. Buzzard was not a small creature. Fox and the surrounding folk were stunned to silence. That name and the face that it conjured, the Conqueror, all of them knew of him. The stories in the campfire tales. No one had seen him, ever. They all knew where he lived, where he reigned. And who was this Conqueror? Here are some of the various conjectures, rumors, tall tales, and theories in no particular order. 1, he was the worst kind of animal, a man. He was the sorcerer king of some long dead kingdom who was banished to the Briar Patch, where he ruled a fiefdom full of demons, witches, and various undead creatures. 2, he was no man at all. He was a living plant growing from the poisoned earth beneath the Briar Patch, where he radiated his evil influence over all who came in contact with him. 3, he was neither man, animal, or vegetable. Rather, he was an evil spirit trapped beneath the Briar Patch by some eldritch spell that could end at any moment. I hear he eats souls, said Brother Bear. He eats bodies and souls, said Sister Weasel. He cooks them up in a stew. Okra, onions, your blood is broth, and you is the meat. I have heard worse, said Hoot Owl. The Conqueror is a god from some black region beyond space and time as we know it, a place with many fanged and tentacled monsters. Fox squeaked, "What's a tentacle?" Sister Magpie said, "Enough of this speculation. We all know what must be done. We have to go beneath the Briar Patch and rescue Brother Rabbit. Who will join me?" No one stepped forward. They all looked at the ground, or sipped moonshine, or preened their feathers or their fur. "No one?" she said, glancing at the cowering crowd. "Then it's just you and me, Fox." "Hold up," he said. "Don't even," she said, marching towards the tangle of thorns. "You are the one who started this. You need to make this right." Fox followed her, tail between his legs. There was no way to avoid the thorns. They did their best, but in the end, their entrance into the Conqueror's realm was clearly marked by tufts of fur and clumps of feathers left on the branches. You could bet there was much cursing. When they finally got to a clearing, they rested, nursing the scratches and scrapes they sustained. "Damn," said Fox. "I hope we can find another way to get out of here. I don't think my hide can take any more abuse." "Shh," said Magpie. "We ain't the only folks here." Both fell silent, listening. Above them, Sister Moon was in her full glory, wearing a gown that had just the slightest tinge of blue. Her fullness was caught by the snares in the branches, and the light she cast slashed into blue-white ribbons. Branches creaked, even though there was no wind. The two animal folk stood back to back, peering into that latticed gloom. They saw movement in the branches, shiverings and quiverings. And they saw eyes, eyes of yellow and eyes of green, red eyes like dots of blood, blue eyes, circles of sky. Eyes with centers like black stones, and eyes with barbed thorn in their center. Eyes that looked at them with malice and mischief, curiosity and hunger. "Let's walk," Magpie whispered. "What direction?" "Hell if I know." Fox sniffed the air. Did he catch just the slightest whiff of tar? Or was he just imagining it? Did it matter, considering the current circumstances? "Come on," he said, chasing the scent. Sister Magpie followed. They walked in silence. It was tough going and required some measure of concentration. The briar branches grew wildly in all directions. Some were low hanging and had to be ducked under, and others had to be stepped over, gingerly to avoid cuts. As they walked, the smell of tar became stronger. The night was hot and humid, and the two decided to rest before carrying on. Doc said, "Do you think he's dead?" Magpie stayed silent. Fox said, "I never meant for it to go this far. It was just a joke. It was just a game." Magpie cocked her head to one side. "Shh, I think I can hear something." Fox heard it too. Something moving on the dirt ground and over the branches, something that slithered. It emerged from a particularly dense crosshatching, unraveling from some aperture like a rope made out of green mint with patches of black soil. The snake was immense, with eyes the reddish green color of a rhubarb. It could easily swallow Sister Magpie whole and wrap itself around Brother Fox and crush his rib cage. "Greetings," it said in a voice that covered its syllables like moss over muddy stone. "Welcome to my father's realm." The voice was androgynous and mellifluous. It promised slow death, and the bones hung beneath the briar patch like ornaments. Both animal folk stepped closer together. Sister Magpie pressed against Fox's fiery fur. "And where is your father? Might we have an audience with him?" The snake's forked tongue flickered in and out of its mouth, tasting their fear. It said, "Why would you need an audience with him? I do not recommend it. He is not agreeable most of the time." This time, Fox spoke, perhaps encouraged by Magpie's boldness. "We have some business with him." "Did you happen to see a man made of tar pass this way?" The snake stayed silent, as if considering the question. "I may have," it said. "Which direction did it go?" said Magpie. "Why," said the snake, sidling up to the pair, "should I tell you?" His green-red eyes flashed. "Because," said Sister Magpie, "if you don't tell me, I will take your eyes. My, how they shine. You know how I like sparkly things, don't you?" The snake paused. The reptilian face was unreadable, alien. But maybe, just maybe, it gave her words some consideration. "Forgive my insolence," said the snake. "We get so few visitors down here, I have forgotten our manners." The snake crossed the dusty path. Both Fox and Magpie watched its progress carefully. The serpent's length was seemingly unending, inch after inch of mint green and soil black scales. It took its time. When its head reached the other side of the tangle, it turned towards the pair and said, "You were going in the right direction. That hoodoo thing was headed towards the conqueror. You were either very brave or very foolish. Devouring you would have been a mercy." Sister Magpie ruffled her black and white raiment in fury. She fluttered off the ground and darted towards the snake's brightly evil eyes. The snake hissed and dove into the brush quickly. When they were sure that the snake was gone, both of them collapsed into a heap of trembling. "You are magnificent, sister," said Fox, after they had regained some measure of fortitude. "I don't know if I can do it again," she said. "Let's go on. I would like to be out of here as soon as possible." How much more time do I have? It's kind of longer. Like,
I don't want you to stop.
okay.
Just finish it, please.
They headed to the center where the conqueror lived. They did not talk about what would greet them once they arrived. There was no need. They said that the conqueror had made the devil himself scared. Haints even turned whiter than they were after meeting him. Beautiful witches turned into decrepit crones after dealing with him. Fox and Magpie knew that any deal they made with the conqueror could go wrong, horribly wrong. He did not abide by the laws of man or of the animal folk. How are you going to convince him to let Rabbit go? Sister Magpie asked. Maybe to fill the silent gloom that had descended beneath the briar patch. I reckon I'll be straightforward, replied Fox. They had settled into an easy pace. He loped on all fours, and she flew when the way was clear. I'll say, Mr. Conqueror, I hope I didn't bother you with my little hoodoo spell. I promise not to work any mojo again. But if you wouldn't mind, please let Rabbit go. It weren't no fault of him's that he's here. He just got caught up in my foolishness. That sounds mighty nice, Brother Fox. It just might work. Or it could fail horribly. The voice came out of nowhere and everywhere. It sounded like a screech. It scraped against eardrums. Fox stopped dead in his tracks, and Magpie landed on the red fur of his back. The air in front of them thickened into blurred pearls of moisture until a shape, the color of Sister Moon in her finest white gown, hovered in front of the pair. The shape was formless and cloud-like. It had almost two symmetrical globes of reddish green that suggested eyes. Who are you? Said Fox. His hackles were raised. That is entirely the wrong question, the cloud-light being said. The correct question is, who was I? All right then, answer that question. My name was Sapphira, and I was cursed with great beauty. My skin was dark brown and glowed with health. I had amber eyes and a pleasing shape. I was also a slave and worked many long, hot hours, picking cotton in an unforgiving sun. My great beauty caught the eye of an overseer. He was an ugly, cruel man with skin the pink color of a pig and a pig's jowls as well. I would see him leering at me as I bent down to fill my sack. I knew what he wanted, and I knew my fate, were I to deny him. The cloud-like being poured an image into their minds of a brown-skinned beauty with a muscular frame, crowned with a glory of thick plates. She continued, I prayed to the Lord and to the Savior nightly to protect me from his advances. One night, my cabin mate, who is much older than I, laughed at my prayers. She called them pitiful. That white bearded man and his blue-eyed son ain't gonna save you, child. Only one thing can. And she told me about the conqueror and how to reach him. I did as she instructed, making the offerings of blood, saying the right words. He took me to his lair in the middle of the briar patch. Oh, he is fearsome to look at, as you will soon find. I told him my troubles. What will you give me if I help you? He asked. What will you take? I said. He told me that my soul was his for 50 years. That seemed a fair bargain. Oh, if I had only known. He lent me some of his power. It poured into me, into every inch of my being. It set every fiber of me on fire. I was baptized with mojo. When Sapphira returned to the land above, the Haint continued, She found herself imbued with wisdom. She knew which plants could heal and which could kill. She could ease pain with a touch and got premonitions. She also knew how to communicate with the animal folk. When the overseer came around and made his bid in an unnecessarily lewd manner, she spoke a word of power to his horse. The horse followed her command and threw the overseer. The overseer suffered a couple of broken ribs. He never bothered her or any other female slave again. Armed with new power, she became arrogant and careless. She became known around the plantation as the resident witch. Fellow slaves approached her for love potions, ailments, and occasionally revenge. Knowledge of her power spread until even poor white laborers asked for a spell or a tonic. When the word of her witchery reached her owners, the punishment was swift and brutal. She found herself facing a lynch mob armed with rifles. Not even her newfound powers could save her from a crowd eager to see her demise. I've been down here nigh on 20 years, longer than I was alive. She seemed to have concluded her tragic tale. Brother Fox said after a moment, "Sounds like a run of bad luck. Surely he didn't cause you to die, did he?" The rhubarb eyes flared. Not directly, but he could have warned me, you know. Fair enough, said Fox. We will heed your warning. Sister Sapphira, said Magpie, did you happen to see a poppet made of tar pass by? I did. It was a terrible sight to behold. It seemed to have something trapped in its gooey belly, something that hollered and hooted. I reckoned it was a victim for one of the conqueror's devilish plans. It went that way. The phantom extended a cloud tendril in the direction of the tunnel of thorns. I would not go that way if I were you. After that pronouncement, the spirit winked out like a snuffed candle. Magpie and Fox looked at the tunnel of thorns for a full minute. It was dense and dark, and the thorns in there looked sharper than the other thorns. The worst thing, however, was that at the tunnel's end, they could see a light, an ominous reddish green light. Brother Fox said, if we survive this, Brother Rabbit will owe me big. Sister Magpie said, true that. She hopped up on Fox's back and settled down. They started down the tunnel silently. They didn't speak. It seemed out of place here. Besides, they had to concentrate on the path before them, which was narrow. The ground was full of fallen thorns. Fox had to navigate carefully around them. It was chilly in the tunnel, though it was high summer outside of the patch. Magpie shivered on Fox's back, and both animal folks' breath misted out from their mouths, beaks, and nostrils. Gradually, the shining red-green at the end of the tunnel got larger and larger until they reached the end. They emerged from the tunnel and saw, one, a nightmarish clearing filled with bloody green light that glowed from nowhere. The light was in the air itself, saturating and coloring everything in the circular clearing. Two, Brother Rabbit lying unconscious in the remains of the tar poppet. He held the great gator's heart in his arms as if it were a baby. A puddle of tar spread out from his body. At first, they couldn't tell if he was alive or not. And three, the worst thing of all, the conqueror himself. He grew out of the ground, mingling human and vegetable parts randomly. His legs and torso were naked bone and robed in thick vines. Two stalks extended from the torso, evidently his arms. His face was human enough, with a wide nose and thick sculptural lips. He looked at least several hands high, like a scarecrow. Every part of his body bloomed morning glories in an array of colors. This last bit was the most disturbing, for it made clear that the conqueror was not a natural thing. He was something other and unknowable. It was Fox who broke the silence. Is he dead? The face of the conqueror swiveled and took the measure of the two animal folk. The voice of the conqueror did not come from the finely shaped lips. It came from the throat of the blossoms. You could see them vibrate with the effort. It was not one voice, but a chorus of them. Collectively, the conqueror said, "Which one of you dared to make the creature of tar?" The voice rasped over feather and fur. The fox stepped forward. The ghastly face of the conqueror imprisoned him in his stare. The rhubarb light came from his terrible eyes. "Why did you do this thing?" the voices said. Fox glanced at Rabbit and saw that he was breathing. He licked his muzzle and spoke. "Oh, great and honored one, I apologize for using witchery for my own petty mischief. I am sorry to have vexed you so." The vegetable man said nothing. The morning glory blossoms quivered like lips. "Go on," whispered Sister Magpie. "Tell him why you made the tar poppet." "Oh, great one, the reason I performed such hoodoo was to trick Brother Rabbit. There was no other reason. See, Brother Rabbit is much better at tricking me. I thought I would do him one better. Sir, your grace, your honor." Fox Grace glanced down at the earth. A sound rose from the conqueror. It was a rustling, as if a wild wind had crept into the clearing. It was underscored with a booming sound that shook the very briar patch, causing the thorns and branches to clash together. Fox looked up to see the face of the conqueror laughing. It was a roots deep sound, and his flower mouths laughed along with him. It stopped abruptly as it started. "You are foolish," said the voices, "but I admire your treachery. Your love and hate for your friend and enemy must be strong. Still, do not dare to use the power again. I will know, and I will not be pleased." Fox and Magpie shivered at the harshness of the voices. The face of the conqueror relaxed, his eyes closing. At once, the bloody green light faded, and they were out of the briar patch. The sun was just beginning to rise. "What?" said Fox. "Just," said Magpie. "Happened," said Rabbit. He was now awake, blinking his sleepiness out of his eyes. Fox was so happy he could have kissed him, but he did not. "We saved your hide," said Sister Magpie after they regained their composure. "After he almost killed me," said Rabbit. "Don't facing the conqueror account for anything?" said Fox. Sister Magpie began preening herself, plucking out the various thorns and twigs that had caught in her feathers. "You two stop. Now's as good a time as any to call us truce." Both Fox and Rabbit looked at each other abashedly. "Come on now. After all we went through, I'm not going to leave until you two make up." Brother Fox and Brother Rabbit agreed to end the prank war. They both swore on their mama's grave. Sister Magpie made them before she flew off into the dawn. Did they keep their bargain? That's another tale for another time. Thank you.
Easily the best retelling of that tale I've ever heard.
Thank you.
Much funnier and much scarier than I remember. Gosh, I have to thank both of you. I'm a little bit afraid of plants now. Thanks to both of you. This has been a wonderful evening. We've got to wrap things up, but I do want to let you know about next week. Next week, we have another great lineup. We have Mina Lee and Amanda J. McGee. And I recommend checking storyhour2020.com day of to see if there are any announcements or any changes. And storyhour2020.com is also a good place to learn about upcoming authors. You can watch any programs you may have missed, watch this one another time or two, you know, whatever. At the Story Hour page on Facebook. Laurance Gidney, J.A. Haigh, thank you both so much for sharing your stories with us tonight. And I'd like to thank my co-host, Daniel Marcus, for bringing us here all these Wednesdays for the past 2 years. I'd like to thank all of you who come here to enjoy these stories with us. We can all spin the fictive dream together. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.